G'day, bird nerds, plant nerds, nature nuts, folks who religiously watch gardening shows, even if they're repeats from 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. I'm Grant. I am a bird nerd. Now, we're going to talk about pigeons and doves, obviously an Australian slant, but a lot of what we're going to talk about can be common across across the world, I am guessing, because as we know, where there's a species somewhere, there's usually one somewhere else that does pretty much the same thing functionally within the environment, within the ecosystem. Folks, if you're on Instagram, I apologise. There is a known issue apparently with Instagram and some of the streaming platforms. If you would like, if you're watching on Instagram, because apparently we're live on Instagram at the moment, but I can't check. I can't check comments coming in. So if you would like to comment and you're on Instagram and you want to share your opinions or ask a question, just head over to YouTube is the best place. thebirdemergency.com/YouTube. If you prefer Facebook or Twitch, it's the same deal. thebirdemergency.com/Facebook or /Twitch. So hopefully I can make that easy for you. All right. Pigeons and doves. Pigeons and doves. Apparently pigeons are better pets than parrots. That's the first thing that I have learned while I've been looking around to see what I can share with you apart from just talking text or showing a couple of emails. And what I have discovered in that most of what tends to be available for fruit-eating pigeons and doves in an Australian context is supposition or observations from people in gardens. And I really wanted to dig deep. I did find a few things. So let's let me get to the... Where's the publication? Where is it? Is this the one? Yes. I did find one publication, which is the journal Corella, and this is from DG Gosper. And this is just talking about the gut contents of 18 fledged white-headed pigeons in northern New South Wales. And the disturbing thing, but one of the things where I think we can really make a difference, is in 100% of the fledglings, camphor laurel, which is a introduced noxious weed, a very prevalent environmental weed in the subtropical region of coastal Australia, 100% of the birds had a large presence of the seed of the camphor laurel, Cinnamomum camphora, and 56% of the 18 birds that were sampled had the fruit, the pulp, and skin, and or seeds, whole seeds. So the next largest percentage in the gut is rock fragments, so grit, 44%, and then the next one is unidentified plant material, seed coat, leaf, fruit pedicels, which is like the stem, and other parts of the fruit, and then everything else is sort of 6%, and that was 6% of the rough-leafed elm, or Aphananthe philippinensis. So I'm guessing it's a Philippines plant. I will look. So I'm guessing that's another introduced plant. And then broadleaf paperbark, or Melaleuca quinquenervia, or the traditional paperbark in as we get fairly north in Australia, 6%. And then cicada nymphs. So the very youngest stage of the cicadas, 6%, and then there's crop milk and feathers. So that's a scientific study that I could find. Not much information really, but there was. Where's the bit I wanted to draw your attention to? If you've checked out any of the shows that we've done previously about bird strike and collisions, you'll know that pigeons are often irregular victims of bird strike around the world. Now, of those, the birds that were being studied in this particular study, 4 birds died as a result of collisions with windows, and one which was seen to hit a window during an attack by a brown goshawk. And from their study group, 8 were roadkills, 6 died from unknown, undetermined causes. So mortality is very high. So there's not really much else that that I can get from a scientific paper. Other than something I didn't know was that the pigeons forage regularly on flaky paperbark. So that is obviously something you might want to consider in including in your in your native garden design. Now I will. Comments. I was reading the paper and not looking at the screen. Naomi, hello Naomi. Naomi says, I'm unsurprised about the camphor laurel being a high amount of the diet up here. It's very prevalent. Yeah, camphor laurel is one of the biggest environmental weed problems in sort of from Sydney up. It was such a common garden plant in I'm going to say probably from the time it was brought over, and I'm guessing that's going to be the late 1800s. It was very adaptable and quite an easy plant to maintain, in that you can really prune it really savagely to keep it in a space in a garden. So it was really, really common in semi-formal gardens. It can be clipped to a shape, and it adapted really, really well to Australia. So, it's a huge problem. And in so many places now, you are not, it's an environmental weed and should not be sold. And in fact, isn't allowed to be sold in many places. So I might just show you that, table, just so you know what I was talking about. This is what I was referring to. Gut contents of 18-fledged white-headed pigeons at Gulmangar, northern New South Wales. So there's fruit-eating pigeons and doves. There's seed-eating pigeons and doves. And there is a group that are a bit more omnivorous. And there's not a lot of information that is anything other than anecdotal observations. So let's have a look at some of it. First, or should we? No, let's discuss the framework of the garden a little bit. Fruit-eating pigeons and doves do not need the same access to water that seed-eating pigeons and doves do. They still need water, but they don't need to visit as much, and they don't need to consume as much, because you might be surprised to know pulpy fruits contain quite a bit of water. Whereas seed eaters, granivorous pigeons and doves, need water to help break down the seeds, which are far drier in their composition, but they also need a fair amount of grit. They need to be consuming grit to help grind down the seeds into a digestible matter within the gut. So we're kind of speaking the obvious again, but you do need to have some readily available water for your seed-eating pigeons and doves. And this group includes the peaceful dove, the diamond dove, the bar-shouldered dove, the crested pigeon, your spotted dove, the introduced spotted dove, did I say the crested pigeon? And then you're going to have like your the squatter pigeons, flock pigeons, partridge pigeons, the sort of drier country pigeons, and then you've got that group that, and this is my classification based on what I've seen birds doing firsthand. I think the bronze wings and the wonga pigeon are a bit more generalist in what they'll eat, but I'm not sure that diamond doves and peaceful doves and whatnot are not quite generalists as well. I'm just not sure. I just don't think we know. I think there's a lot of supposition. As you can see from this chart, 6% of the contents were cicadas in the white-headed pigeon, which is a frugivore, generally a frugivore. So, water. We need water. But we also need the water to be situated in a situation where if the birds are startled and they fly away quickly, if they're making a rapid exit, that they are not going to fly into your windows. Now, we've covered bird strike in a number of other shows, so I'll sort of leave that danger there. Suffice to say, please do not place water or even a seed bowl near windows that will reflect the environment, and that if the birds are startled, that they will think there's a getaway, an escape route through your lounge room or your kitchen or whatever. So just be careful with that, and I think I'll leave that much alone. So how do you know what to plant? Let's concentrate a little bit on the fruit-eating varieties, because I think grasses and wattles, eucalypts are well known that they provide copious amounts of seed. And we can come back to it a little bit in a minute. But first, I want to have a look at some of the fruit-bearing plants that you can consider. Thanks, Naomi. Facebook love there. Let me also remind anyone, if you're watching on Instagram, I can't check your comments. There's a fault with Instagram, apparently a known problem. So, did I not? I did it again, didn't I? I did it again. Sorry, folks. I'm talking about a table which I didn't show you again. I was too busy reading it than showing you. This is the study, Diet of the White-Headed Pigeon, near Lismore. And when was it carried out? So there we are. That's Darren Gosper, I believe. I believe this is someone I know, and I didn't even check. There we are, from Balnarring. Interesting. There we go. Now, all of these, I should talk a little bit about the methodology. All of the pigeons that were examined were pigeons that were found dead over 4 years near Lismore. So, and there are there's a lot of assumptions in here. There's an assumption that the bark consumption that I mentioned may counter potential adverse effects from a diet dominated by camphor laurel fruits and seeds, which are reputed to contain toxins. So there's so much which is just assumed and not really known. There's another note here in the sort of the abstract or whatever, the summary. Incidental records of consumption of flower buds of indigenous plants and insects, the first such records for this species, and regular drinking from man-made structures such as roof guttering on buildings are detailed. So I think we can apply some common sense. Birds that visit urban areas are likely to browse whatever is around, and they probably try things out, and where they find water that is safe for them, they will avail themselves of it. So if you have water collecting naturally, if there's a place in your garden that is a soak, that whenever it rains, water collects there, well, just, if it's dried up, just run your hose a little bit and the birds will know that there is a place and they'll come. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to say there. Now, I'm not going to play the ABC gardening clip because I got a copyright on the last time we did it with the glossy black cockatoos, but I am going to show you. Now this is Gardening Australia from Series 19, Episode 6. There we are. March 2008. So it's not exactly not exactly recent, but this is a bird attracting plants segment that they did. Fruit and seed eating birds include the fig parrot, whipbird, and many rainforest birds. So they're not even drawing out pigeons, but they have mentioned a group of plants that I talk about all the time, which is syzygium. Really common in nurseries to get syzygiums now. So look towards that. And there's a little bit about Yeah, there's just really nothing, is there? It's always easy to put in nectar plants, nectar providing plants. Okay, sorry, there's just nothing much on that one. I'm going to go to a nursery page now. I'll pop back and see if there's any comments or questions in a minute. Now, this nursery is really good nursery. They concentrate on local plants for the local area, North Queensland, and of course, so many of the fruit-eating pigeons and doves are from North Queensland. Well, let's talk about what they've got here. Of course, when we're talking other frugivores, there are many, many, many more, like the fig birds and the orioles, and as I mentioned here, the coels. So let's just pop this up. Yaruga Nursery, attracting fruit eaters. And there's just talking about that the birds are highly mobile, and they'll turn up when a particular fruit is ripe. This means you will have different types of birds as various types of fruits mature. Yeah. There really is. It's really is plant a variety of plants, honey flora. I'm really disappointed with that. I mean, Yaruga are one of the best nurseries from Northern Australia that have a really wide range of plants that are different to what you'll find in, your Bunnings, etc. And either there isn't a lot of people asking for plants for pigeons and doves because they haven't done the work on it, or they have found, a bit like me, that when you're looking for resources that are anything other than making assumptions, there's not a whole lot there. Now, this is Australian Plants Online. Let's get into this one again too. There's quite a bit of work gone into this website because it's a network of nurseries. It's sort of a retail portal for it, a network of nurseries. But again, gardening for birds, nectar plants, nectar plants, nectar plants, nectar plants, nectar plants, nectar plants, berry and fruit eating birds. So they love fruit. So there is at least a discussion about, or a comment about using native palms. We've got quandongs, blue quandongs, fig berries, so native figs. Figs are a really great one, and there are more and more types of figs available in the horticulture trade now. So you can nearly always find figs, and figs are generally able to be pruned, but be careful. I feel like I'm providing you with half the information you need. Some figs that are in the horticultural trade, it's a bit like the rubber plant, if you've ever checked out the rubber plant, because it's a fig, right? And when it's used as an indoor plant, and it's in a small pot, it is small and you can contain it. There's Ficus benjamina, Ficus hillii, and other ones that are often in marketed as indoor plants, but if you pop them outside, boy, they become big. They become big, big. They can become very big trees. So do your homework, or if you're not sure about something that you're considering buying, feel free to drop me a line, and I'll tell you as much as I can about it for the purpose of obviously tell me what you want to do with it, and I'll tell you if I think it will be suitable. In these photos that we're looking at here, you'll see a gang cockatoo in a cotoneaster. It looks like a pink cockatoo, Major Mitchell cockatoo, getting into what looks like a hawthorn, but it may well be something different. Now these are some of the native plants that the Australian Plants Online suggest for fruit-eating birds. I just want to go down and have a look at the yeah, they've got the Indian hawthorn, cotoneaster, holly. Actually, I should have mentioned holly. Holly are really popular for some of the cockatoos. But I wouldn't suggest growing most of these exotic fruit-bearing plants just because of their weed potential. But let's have a look at some of the good natives. I'll just open these in separate links and we'll flick through. So these are all common names, which often are not very good. There we are, lily pillies. So let's move through some of these. Oh, look at this. Look at this, sorry. And they're not, this is really weird, isn't it? Sorry, I'll just show you. Share this tab. Now, Podocarpus is a conifer. Probably not going to be great for. No, it's not. It's not a conifer. Beg your pardon. But it does look like the cowrie, if you know the cowrie. And depending on the here we go. Yeah, you can see these. You can see the leaves here. Actually, maybe it is a conifer. There we are. There's the Podocarpus fruits, and they can become a very quite a large tree. The plum pine is what it is called. Let's have a look at what their height says. Yeah, 12 to 20 metres, 3 to 7 metres across. They're quick growing. They're a good container plant, but they're currently out of stock here. But that's one to consider because of the fruits. Okay. Now, Bodecan plum, again, this is a subtropical plant. That's what it looks like when it's young. Glossy leaves. Let's see if there's a shot of a big. Here we go. So it can become a large tree. Big bushy native rainforest tree grows to 12 metres in full sun. And their fruit begins as green, comes out to red. Let's get to that. Red, and then dark. Attracts native wildlife. They're popular because you can make a sort of a jelly or a plum chutneys out of it. You'll often see bird deacon plum, Pliogenium timoriense, but generally marketed as bird deacon plum. But can become a big tree. Okay. Now this is one which you'll see very common. It's a bit like a pittosporum. Let me open up this one. Harpulia pendula, the tulip wood. Often a street tree, so you'll see a lot of it in parks and in street trees. From northern New South Wales to the far top end of Queensland. You certainly see a lot of them in Queensland. This is the plant out in situ as a street tree. You will probably see the similarity with how pittosporums open up, but they don't provide many seeds. They provide one large seed. Let's have a look what they say about use. Native and wildlife gardens, as butterflies love the flowers and birds love the berries. Okay, let's see. Can I see the flowers? Okay, no, not showing us a picture of the flowers. Anyway, there's another one. Tuckaroo, you will probably know tuckaroo. This is a smaller tree, generally. I'll just make sure that, 5 to 8 metres. So rather than the 12 to 20 metres, it's what I would call a medium tree. Not for a small yard at all. And there's looks like many of the popular European garden sort of trees, like leaves a bit like a garrier, but there we are. There's the fruits. There we are. Bronzy new foliage. Now it says it's hardy, tolerates frost and drought once established. Has jolly orange berries. Don't you love that kind of descriptive language? It's jolly. It's a very jolly berry. Suited to all soil types, even clay. I'm going to suggest that if you have deep sand and you're in like a aridy kind of situation, this is not going to be the plant for you. But it is a very nice feature plant in a large open garden setting, but it's also good for a mixed hedgerow and a border. And they can be pruned, I think. Just going to check that they say that. The roots are non-invasive, making it popular with landscapers. They are established quickly. Prune regularly, yeah. I was sure that they are very good for hard pruning. So you can maintain them in along a fence line, but to me, their main appeal is that they're a really good specimen tree. Let's just check what we've got in the way of comments. Here we go. Naomi says, figs are great, but watch your plumbing. I would say that with every plant, especially if you have leaky pipes anywhere. It doesn't matter what kind of plant you've got, the roots will get in there, or what kind of tree, particularly, roots will get in there. So, but yes, figs are extremely vigorous, so they can be a very big problem. Now, here we go. You've got not pigeons, but cockatoos. Your orange tree gets fruits ripped up and eaten by the sulphur-crested cockatoos, and then the other birds come and feed on the open fruits and the insects. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Blue quandong. Yes, we're going to get to blue quandong in a minute. blue quandong can get quite huge, as Naomi says. Let's just get to another one of these. Now, this is a plant. Let's get to this. This is one of my favourites because, whoops. Are we streaming that one now? Ostrometus dulcis? Yes. Okay. Ostrometus dulcis, there are a couple of varieties you can get, so they can be very small to medium, sort of a medium shrub. Very attractive. Let's have a look at some reddish new growth. There's the nice little white fruit. Very similar to a lot of the syzygiums and grows a lot like the syzygiums. So yeah, they're a pretty looking plant. Yeah. When I worked in a wholesale nursery in South Melbourne, we sold thousands and thousands and thousands of Ostrometus dulcis. It went through a stage where it was being marketed as a good little indoor plant, and it is if you've got it in a place where it can get enough light, and you don't overwater them. What are they going to tell us? This is the medium berry, and I can't remember whether it was. I think it was Martin mentioned this once before, growing up in his area. So yeah, this is a good one. 0.5 of a metre to 1 metre by 1 metre wide. I have seen them bigger, but yeah, they're generally like a small. They're really good for edging. If you want to do, if you were thinking of using a box hedge, Ostrometus dulcis is a really good substitute for that kind of design purpose. If you're wanting to do edgings to paths and gardens, and you want that box look, and you want to be able to clip and keep it quite formal, this is a good alternative. Full sun to part shade. Yep. So doesn't like getting wet feet. Mulch and water regularly. Definitely a thick mulch they do like. And berries are in the autumn. Tolerates dry conditions, humidity and light frost once established. I think you'd be wanting to be careful about saying dry conditions. As long as they're well mulched and there's pretty good soil moisture, I would agree. But I wouldn't say that this is a plant that is going to get through a drought if you haven't been able to be watering, or at least subsoil watering. Okay. There we go. We'll just get through a few more and then we'll have a bit more of a discussion. Now, this plant, Alpinia cerula, the native redback ginger. Now, let's just have a look at the pictures. Now, if you know what gingers grow like, down south, if you think of canna lilies, these gingers grow like that. Now, I've seen Alpinia cerula growing in Melbourne in protected spots and doing quite well. There's actually some in the front yard, quite close to the house, in the kind of situation where you in times gone by you would have seen hydrangeas being planted, and this substitutes well. It's growing quite well, but I've never seen it set the berries, and it's fairly old. But they set the berries, and when they do, they look, they look a bit like Dianella, but they're held differently. They sort of look like Lomandras, but they're Dianella colours. There's a number of varieties out on the market, and can have these red undersides, rusty red or bright red, even up to crimson undersides of the leaves. But generally the leaves are big and leathery. But it's a ginger, right? So it's a root stock. It's a root plant that it's a rhizomatous. That's what I'm trying to say. Has the same kind of a root system as kangaroo paws and obviously ginger because it's in the ginger group. But it's a tropical plant generally and quite adaptable, even as far south as Melbourne. But have I been able to find any information? See, it says berries are edible and loved by birds is the claim here. I've never witnessed pigeons or doves eating them, and I've never in any of the horticultural texts or anything have I seen claims that this is a good one for pigeons. I think for parrots, possibly, but why not give it a go? Why not add to the anecdotal knowledge? And then there are so many syzygiums, lily pillies available. Let me pop this one up just to give you an idea, because this is a when you go to Australian Plants online, they're sourcing from a number of different growers, I believe. So you've got a whole lot of different lily pillies. There's a good one, showing the a berry, Syzygium express. These are all cultivars pretty much. But there's, here we go. There's another one that isn't a cultivar. I might pull that one up. So we've got Syzygiums. We've got Acmena smithii, which is the old lily pilly. But there are lots and lots of cultivars, variegated forms, small forms, fastigiate or more upright forms. There's small dwarf forms for edges. This guy here, Syzygium straight and narrow, there's one of the fastigiates. But here's a plant which, I'll just open this one up. Waterhousia floribunda is the species name, but you will find Waterhousias often now out in the nursery trade. It's a lily pilly in that it's in the general group of genus which form lily pillies. But it is a very, very attractive plant. And you'll find varieties. Can be quite large, but there are smaller varieties. This one here grows to 5 metres. This is a cultivar called Sweeper, the weeping lily pilly. And it's quite expensive, as you might notice, because it is one of those improved varieties that has a PBR, plant breeder rights, attached to it, so it costs a fair bit of moolah. Okay, I'm going to be back here now. Take these out. Naomi's got some observations for us. Pigeons featuring on tuckaroos. Locusts, yes. Locusts and longan. Longan is also rambutan. Very, very, very popular for pigeons. I do see... we don't have any fruit-eating pigeons or exclusively fruit-eating pigeons down here, but locusts get visited by everything. Blackbirds, magpies, lorikeets, cockatoos. Have I seen spotted doves in there? I don't think so. So there's definitely lots of exotic species. Anything with a soft fruit, I'm pretty sure the pigeons would have a go at. Blueberry ash, blue quandong, cotoneaster, bleeding hearts, pitostrums. Yeah, I've seen the crested pigeons here have a go at. There's a couple of Pittosporum undulatum down here, but only at a very specific stage when the fruits open, like the day of or the day after the fruits are opening, I reckon, and they'll get into it. But then once the fruit has been sort of air dried, I guess they're not interested. Naomi has a ginger. Never seen the pigeons at it. Okay, whitbirds, lewins, king parrot, crimson parrots eating the fruit. Yeah, yep. Yes, I think they're a very valuable garden plant if you can get them to grow. But that's the thing. Are the pigeons going to go? I think the pigeons like pigeons and fruit doves, based on anecdotal evidence. And again, this is the problem, isn't it? I think if you can get syzygiums, Elaeocarpus, Podocarpus, Pittosporums, Waterhousias, when the fruit are ripe, I think you are a chance of having a top knot pigeon. Oh, Instagram has just kicked us off. Okay. I think because we've been going for an hour. Yes. I'll just pop that up there. Okay. No. Where was I? So then the challenging thing for fruit eating pigeons. Well, I think we covered this really early when we started doing habitat gardening. I think you need to have an idea of the birds that you could possibly get visiting your garden in the area, and then you need to plant a succession of fruiting plants like plants that will ripen in succession over time. The same principle, obviously, for seed-eating pigeons and doves, but there's some design issues that are going to be different too. I don't think many people are going to be able to have the luxury of satisfying both groups, because the seed eaters, the ground foraging seed eaters that require seeding grasses supplemented with things like acacias and eucalypt seed. I'm sure they'll have calicium seed if it is shed, but caliciums, melaleucas and whatnot usually will hold the seed until there's a fire. Some eucalypts will shed seed as soon as the capsules are ripe. Some eucalypts will hold the seed until there's a fire event or a drought or some other stress. So there's no general rule about eucalypts or corymbias for these birds. So it's probably best to think about grasses and acacias really when we're talking about seed-eating pigeons and doves. But they are foraging, and generally are foraging in a more open space, especially if you're looking for diamond doves or peaceful doves. Some of them, like the bar-shouldered, will like a denser garden. Crested pigeons generally will want some more open space for foraging. Common bronzewing, a bit more open than the brush bronzewing, but again, that is variable. Yeah, it's not easy, is it? That's why we need to analyse everyone's garden individually. Have I given you any good ideas for what to look for? All of the local, in your area, indigenous grasses will be attractive if you have if you have those ground foraging, seed eating pigeons and or doves in your area. So Poa, Danthonia, Themida, Pennisetum. Be careful with that if it's an environmental weed in your area. Pennisetum alopecuroides. There's a number to choose. A number to choose from. I think even some of things like Canedias that set a lot of seed might even be useful in the same way that acacias are, if they're shedding their seed as soon as the seed pods are ripe. But again, it comes back to that succession issue. God, I'm looking pink again today, aren't I? Well, I only just noticed that. Let's get me less pink. Oh, I'm just as pink if I do that, aren't I? Wow. Look, any other comments? I'm not sure that this topic has been able to be as specifically useful as I would have liked, because most of the information out there is assumptions and suppositions and anecdotal observations, and I think that's to be forgiven a little bit in terms of the seed eating pigeons and doves, because not a lot of people are good at identifying the grasses that the birds are feeding on. And when it comes to the fruiting plants, I think the diets for these birds are probably much broader than is known, because not a lot of people are really good at identifying rainforest plants in the rainforests. I would contend that a lot of bird watchers are much better at identifying birds than plants. But also, we have a limited suite of fruit-bearing plants that are in cultivation and that are in gardens. So I think we are limiting the choice for the birds just because the choices are limited by the horticultural trade. So have a go would be, if you're in subtropical, tropical Australia, and there are a range of berry setting fruits, trees, plants, shrubs that you can try. And I'd be looking at, again, Billardieras I've mentioned before. The Solanum, the kangaroo apples. There's a lot of varieties, different species of those that may be available in specialist nurseries in your area or with Indigenous nurseries. They might be good. I just don't think that people have tried them a lot. Myoporum set fleshy fruits. Some of the Eremophilas are squishier, fleshier than others. I think these are all worth trying for fruit-eating pigeons. I tell you what I will do. I won't do it now because I'll probably have to look through 101 things. But I will look up any avicultural bird keeping information for things like the green-winged fruit dove, the rose-crested fruit doves, wonga pigeons, which are in captivity, have been successfully bred and sold. So I'll check out some of that information and see if I can put two and two together from a horticulturist and bird watcher perspective and try and jam it together and try and give you something which is more than people assuming what the birds will do. Naomi, it's really good that you've popped in your observations for what you have and what you know these plants are. That's quite a lot, isn't it? I mean, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Pittosporum. So that's 8. And you've got the ginger, so that's 9 that you have personally checked out, seeing pigeons eating, even though the pigeons haven't been on your alpinia, on your ginger. And sometimes I wonder whether so I think behaviour is sometimes modified a bit in birds if people are putting fruit out, and so the fruit-eating pigeons are coming down and eating chopped up apples or pears or something. Then they don't need to go foraging on maybe the least or lesser tasty or harder to get, harder to find fruits. It's one of the issues about feeding, isn't it? That always comes up. All right, let's see. Naomi's got another comment. Fruit-eating pigeons seem to eat more than just fruit. Yeah, I reckon, obviously, because there's probably not as much fruit around. Yeah, and you've mentioned wongas and common and brush bronzewing. I would classify those birds as seed eaters generally, but they're far more generalist, I would think, than the peaceful doves, the diamond doves, crested pigeons, and maybe some of the other, like the flock and squatter pigeons. But again, I don't think we really know. I'm not really sure how much, if there are insects on the ground, I don't think we know whether diamond doves and peaceful doves are happy to hoe in on them. I just don't think we know. I'll pop this up again too. You've made another really good point here without really knowing you're making a really good point. If you've got really healthy leaf litter / mulch and it's aged and the birds are scratching around in it, they're going to be finding invertebrates and they're going to be finding perhaps fleshy fruiting parts of fungi, and maybe they do like to snack on the mycelium of fungi. I just don't think we know. But if you have a healthy little micro environment going on there, I'm sure the birds are browsing and ingesting a lot more than just seed or just fruit. I think that's a very fair assumption. Okay, well, there's not many comments today. This has been a difficult one for me because I could not find a lot of information that was anything just, I think they do this. So, yeah. It's also a challenge to find a good variety of fruit-bearing plants that are not potentially invasive weeds. There was hawthorns, cotoneasters, they're, of course, the camphor laurels, very definitely potential to be environmental weeds, but they will be available to be purchased. Whereas if you're looking for the native, let me. A lot of the native fruit-bearing plants we're also becoming limited because a lot of them are being promoted as like bush tucker, so you can make jam or something out of them, and they're also good for wildlife. But if we're only promoting 6 to 10 types because they have a dual purpose of being able to be eaten by people, we are probably not deliberately, but the market is limiting the options you can get. So, yeah, happy to field emails and questions about this. Now, I'm going to. I did get an email during the week showing some cockatoos feeding on some plants, but these I'm gonna not put jam cockatoos into here. Yeah, I'm gonna leave this here, and we'll follow up a bit more on this topic maybe on Monday, on the Monday midday show. I haven't worked out the topic for next week's habitat gardening. Oh no, I don't need to, because I think I'll be highlighting. I think we'll be highlighting Glenn Smith's garden a little bit, so that might be good. Naomi, yes, Cotoneaster is a noxious weed in the Blue Mountains. Don't plant it. No, look, I'm going to say Cotoneaster, hawthorns, things like that. Even holly. Holly is another one which is quite popular for hedging, and the glossy green leaves and the red berries and everything. And there's more and more, like another one, Pyrrhus, which is commonly sold as an indoor plant, but then people get sick of having it indoor and they plant it outside. I don't think its weed potential is really well known in lots of places. So just don't do it. If you buy an indoor plant for indoors, don't go and plant it outside unless you can check that it is not a problem, if it's known to not be an invasive weed problem. And if you live near bushland, really, there's very few reasons why you would be preferring exotic plants to, at the very least, native plants, native Australian plants. And in a lot of cases, you're going to be able to find an indigenous plant to your region that will perform the function that you want it to perform in the garden. And that's what we have gardens for to put plants in that perform a function, either a decorative one or well, they're nearly all decorative, aren't they, nowadays, unless you're growing a food garden. So, yeah, just give it some thought. And I understand that it can be very difficult to get reliable information because so much of it is, we think this is what the birds are doing or the birds like. If you're not sure, if you've got a question, if you want to know something about a plant that you are considering using or for a purpose that you're considering, feel free to drop me a line. Give me some information, as much information as you can about either the site or what you want the thing to do. Send me some photos and I'll try and give you an opinion that isn't based on selling you something. Oh, Naomi's put the other one. I really did want to ignore privet. Ligustrum, privet. Birds love it. It's very popular for hedging, but it's a shocker. It should not be being sold, and it should not be, shouldn't be being sold, and it should be being replaced in all public places. I think pretty much it is. And if you have mature privets, what happens with privets is eventually they will get over mature and then they'll get all woody. So where you've been pruning them and they've been really good because they're a really good hedging plant, right? That's their use, a really good hedging plant. you can clip them to shapes and things, but as they get mature and over mature, they just become a woody nuisance. Start planning to take them out, and you can use syzygiums. And if it's a low hedge or edge that you're looking for, that privets are often used for that, the same as the Buxus have been. You can use an Ostramertus. You can use a Nandina domestica nana for a lot of these kind of uses, even though Nandina. Sorry, that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking, don't use the Nandina domestica nana. Use the Agonis flexuosa nana, and you'll get not always glossy grain, because the new growth is sort of coppery, reddy brown, but serves the same purpose. So go on with that. So Naomi, are you looking for plants to replace the privet, the ligustrum ligustrum? If you are, and you have a site in mind, take some photos and send it to me, and I'll send you some suggestions. There's a group called Mahonia that can often do the same job. Slightly different leaf shapes, but they like similar places that ligustrum like, and can often be clipped quite hard. Again, more exotic plants, Raphiolepis. There's so many that are less bad. So yeah, privet just shouldn't be anywhere. Cotoneaster, hawthorn, hollies, they're all plants that I wouldn't recommend. A lot of the other plants that I'm assuming might be good probably aren't as prevalent in gardens near bushland, that they may have the potential to be noxious weeds as well, or at least invasive. So you just need to be careful. You need to give it some thought. You need to research the plants, and I always like to look for a preferred option. Naomi says she's removed all the privet. Yeah, constantly pulling new seedlings out as well. Lily pillies are good. I think Naomi mentions that the pigeons don't seem to eat the lily pillies here yet. Yeah, see, there's so many varieties of syzygium and lily pillies that I'm sure pigeons have a preference for when they like them, when they are ripe, what stage of ripeness. And I'm sure they have preferences over different varieties. And so it really is what I found right through today when I was and over the what am I doing? Let's take that out. That there just is not a lot of factual information known. A lot of people are marketing every syzygium as good for wildlife gardens. Well, I don't think they're bad, but I'm not sure that they're a preference for a fruit-eating pigeon. So maybe next week, while I will probably Friday. Let's have a look. Friday, Glenn Smith and I will be doing Photography Friday. But Glenn has also sent me a lot of information about his native garden, his wildlife garden. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll talk about that, and I'll jam in anything extra I've found about pigeons and doves, and follow up on the cockatoos, because we've got some photos of what cockatoos have been eating. There's also some more information. There was some more news about cockatoos in WA, so we might talk about that. There may well be some new news by then about the injunction for swift parrots in Tasmania. And what else did I see? I saw something about South Australia. So there's probably a few things to get into. Naomi says the privet problem is all the mountains. Oh, it's bloody everywhere in the bush, I think. It's in public areas and the great food source, but once it's removed, a lot of birds raiding gardens in need of food. Yes, and also when the mature tree, if it's been there for years and it's been dropping seeds and birds have been pooping them out for decades, that seed remains viable for quite some time. But some disturbance in the area will often be enough for the will be enough to start off a new round of germination, and then privet's so quick growing that it will often outcompete a lot of the other stuff. Naomi asked, "Did I see the photo of the brown cuckoo dove eating the bleeding heart?" Yes, I did, Naomi, and I wanted to leave that for Monday, for the Monday show. I have a few things. Actually, we'll do the cockatoos on Monday as well with your brown cuckoos and a few other things I've put aside. And then the following Monday is Jacinta Humphrey talking urban birds and noisy miners and things. So I think that's where we'll wrap up today's habitat gardening. I think it raised more questions than it answered, didn't it? And I'm really quite disappointed that there hasn't been, that I could find. I'll keep looking, but there certainly wasn't easy to find actual research on the diets of our pigeons and doves. But there is quite a lot of information on these birds in captivity. So maybe we will need to put 2 and 2 together to make 6 and come up with that. Hope you're doing something fun for your weekend. Do go out and visit your garden centre or local park and enjoy some birds. I have to give Loz a bath now. It is out there enjoying some sunshine. Now then it's time for the bath. Oh, I'll tell you what, I ordered online some lorikeet blossom and nectar pellets because I wanted to get something a bit less messy for Loz. Loves them. There was no being worried about an unfamiliar bit of food, which she has been for everything else I've introduced to them. And he leapt in. Naomi saying thanks and a few ideas for grasses. Yeah. Now grasses, if you have an Indigenous nursery or a really good native nursery in the area, try and get a local form of your local grasses. And you will have Danthonias, or their new name, which I can't remember, or Themata, or Poas. They're the ones you're generally going to find. You will find Lomandras that are local, and you'll probably find Dianellas, which are local. Lomandras and Dianellas are not true grasses, but they're allied. You might find that you've got Garnias, and that will give you a range of options, and probably a succession of times when seeds will be being set and when they will ripen. And you might find birds like rosellas and other parrots might be happy to eat your grass seeds before they're fully ripe, and that the pigeons and doves and any other seed eaters like the finches and anything else which are, opportunistic seed eating birds, may prefer them to have been fully ripened and fallen. Different birds prefer different things. So, yeah, variety is the spice of life, I believe, when it comes to planting out your native garden or filling gaps or replacing things. So, yeah. Again, Grant at thebirdemergency.com. If you have a problem spot, or you're looking for some suggestions, happy to help. But you do need to give me a fair bit of information so I can give you an informed opinion. Don't just say, I have a spot in my garden where nothing will grow, because I will email you back and say, why do you think that is? Show me what you've got. And I'd like to, the more information I can get, the better information I can give you back. Okay, folks, chat to you Monday again. And we're into another busy week. I've got to do something about this redness, because I don't look red in the camera and everything, but I look red on the stream. I do have a sore eye though. That is red. So something to do with the way I sleep on my pillow, I think. All right. Thanks, bird nerds. Remember, if you want to do something to help me out, subscribe on YouTube or share. Big focus, getting up the numbers on YouTube, the subscriber numbers and viewers on YouTube. So, share if you've enjoyed it, if you find it useful. Share, like. Subscribe. Uru gang. See ya.